Hey guys, Sean Oliver from Kayfabe Commentaries here. The Timeline WWE series was the first timeline series that we did. Um, the first one we shot was with, wasn't the first one we released. If you read my book or maybe heard me on podcasts, or it's kind of become kayfabe trivia, but you can let me know below who you think that who the first edition was that we shot. The first one we released was Honky Tonk Man. That was Timeline WWE 01. It covered the year 1987. So fast forward, once the series was rolling, we of course spun off Timeline to also include WCW, profiling one worker for each year, where they could talk about all the events of that year. It was diligently researched by Anthony of Kayfabe Commentaries, and the talent that we chose were great. They were able to speak. They were working high up enough on the card where they were able to speak to everything that was going on in the company at the time. 1995 was a big year for a big man, Big D. Diesel, Kevin Nash, the champion, and he was front and center for all his angles with Shawn Michaels. And so this was our first time working with Kevin, if I'm not mistaken. And he came in and knocked this edition out of the park. It was a double disc, and it people went berserk for it. It was one of our top sellers. And it spotlit Kevin such that he was now one of these guys who, number one, would be a huge draw for us on video, but also one of these guys that could do several of our series. Timeline, because he was working atop the card. Guest booker, he was on the booking committee. You Shoot, he was great for, because he's outspoken and elicited a large fan response. And he was part of our Wrestling's Most countdown shows. Those are some of my favorite shows. They deal with the lighter side of wrestling, and it's, I guess, trite by comparison for the historian, but that was stuff that I loved. So this was the one that started all for Kevin's relationship with Kayfabe Commentaries. And I know a lot's been made about Kevin's work with us and with me. And this is the one that started it all. Timeline WWE 1995 with Kevin Nash. Big D.
Bill Clinton was in the White House. The San Francisco 49ers and San Diego Chargers are headed to Super Bowl 29. On Bended Knee, I don't remember it, but it was by Boys to Men, and it was the #1 song on the radio. Average American annual salary, $35,900. Gas was $1.12. And here we are when our heroes from the 80s and early 90s are making plans for the next portion of their life. And we're being introduced to the new stars who are going to carry the world's biggest federation for the next 10 or so years. And I got the biggest of those guys in 95 right next to me. Kevin, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Agreeing to go down memory lane, for better or worse. You may need therapy after this, we'll see.
So average American salary was $35,900, so it actually is it's the same.
We're almost there, yeah. We're headed back.
One thing that people don't know is how long he's been associated with professional wrestling. I mean, he was I think he actually broke in as a referee.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, okay. I'm almost positive Jim broke in as a referee. And the one thing that was, when I had found out that Jim was going to be taking that spot, was of all the people, when I had that, that stellar 3-year run at WCW during the Oz and Vinny Vegas days and all those, Master Blaster and so on and so forth. Jim had a talk radio show, a wrestling talk radio show in Atlanta. He would often have me on because I was a good guest. And that's where he became a fan of me, knowing that I could actually speak, I was funny, that there was a lot more to me than met the eye, which at that point, WCW / that was just had turned from the NWA was based on nepotism. If you weren't in Dusty's crew, you basically, or weren't related to him in some form or fashion, you didn't get a push. And so that was kind of where that was. So Jim was kind of an ally that,
Did you see him as a creative guy, though?
I knew you never know if somebody can be creative, but I knew that he knew. I knew that he knew, what sold, what didn't sell, what made sense, what didn't make sense. Whether or not, there's a lot of brilliant people that can't, I'm sure that if Picasso sent here and was going to tell you how he came through Cubism, you and I would go, okay, well, we still aren't going to be able to do Cubism. I mean, it's just a very, unique form of art. But, so whether or not he can put his thoughts on paper and have it, be something that becomes part of, a plus in the program. I mean, you don't know these things until you get, the same as me. I wrestled for a lot of years, and when I got the book, it's like anything else. You realize early in the booking process that no matter how good of an idea you have and how precise it is, if the two guys go out there and completely botch it and don't, execute to a T what you did, you can lose 50, 70, 80% of what you're trying to get done. Mm-hmm. You're a bad booker. No, right. The guys just didn't do their job. So, it's just one of those things where I had no idea, but I just knew that he was an ally. So at that point, it was a good thing.
It was a good thing,
right?
Is he not getting where the business is going now in '95? What were the problems with the matches with Bob?
Just a difference in style. I mean, there were times you wrestle Bob, and Bob is really strong, and he was just in the middle of you making a comeback called pile driver. And you'd be like, okay. I remember one time we were in Sacramento, and we're in the middle of the match, and he takes me to the ropes. He goes, sunset flip. And he's the heel, so out of respect, I sunset flip him. I barely got through the curtain. Taker walked up and he says, if I fucking ever see you sunset flip another human being as long as I'm here, I'll put the boots to you in the middle of the match. And I was just like, that bad? He goes, dude, he said, it looked like he basically bent over him. He said, your feet were on the floor and and your back was on the mat. He said, he said, you would have had to have seen it. I said, oh, well,
So that's an unawareness on whoever's calling the match of who they're working with.
Yeah,
I'm not telling Kamala to sunset flip you.
No, I mean, and on top of that, it's just like, there are guys that are really good workers, like Steve Regal's, for an example. Steve Regal is a great hand, but he has a specific style that he works, and it just doesn't. I need somebody that that can make movement around me. If we're going to grapple, I mean, it's like watching paint dry. It's just not going to be anything. And Bob was that guy. Bob was was more of a grappler. He could have which was fine because Bret could work that style, and there wasn't such a the height difference between Bob and I was, and he's wanting to lock up.
Any Trekkies in the locker room? Anyone marking out for Shatner part?
I know that me and Scott Hall have a picture of Shatner between us. He is Shatner. I mean, one of the probably one of the finest actors of our time.
Actors of our time. Celebrities are often intermingled into angles and stuff, or at least guests on the show, and they either get it or they don't, I'm often told. Did Shatner get it?
I think after a couple scotches he did.
Guess
See the picture I have him as either he was in the sun that day or something got his face red. Nah, I'm kidding, Will. No.
Oh, it's Will, huh?
We're that close.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah. I remember he had, I don't know if it was a tryout match or it was his first match, but the guy comes down and he's got that giant bison head, which, and now as a kid I was a huge Moose Chodlak fan growing up in Sheik's territory, and we had Moose Chodlak who had the moose head, so I kind of got the correlation. And I remember that I want to think it was a dark match or a tryout. I don't know why he was working with Scott. I know it didn't air, so. But he takes that hat off, that big head, and sits and turns around, and Scott just smacks him with an open hand as hard as you can possibly smack a human being. And you're talking about.
Kind of killed that opening.
I mean, it was just like we're just sitting there at the monitor, we're just going. Oh, like.
How did he get in the ring with the head? Could he get through the ropes?
It was
before he got in.
It was. Then remember he carried it. Shortly after he figured out he really couldn't get in, it was like the Vader thing. Remember when Vader would actually carry the
gear?
They'd lay it down and it would shoot steam, which I thought was effective. I remember when WCW ran those whole things, they showed like that, and the crowd was below him, and he looked like this big giant guy, and it was just like, oh my God, this guy's coming, this is going to be great. And they showed up, and he went, okay.
What did the company make of UFC at this time? This is when this is starting to take off. It hasn't achieved anywhere near mainstream popularity, but it's getting a lot of press. And maybe Vince sees this as possible crossover thing, or was it talked about at all?
No, I think it was more that he, being from out in Vegas and kind of where that was kind of becoming, it was something in Vegas before it was something
right. So it's something
else.
Charles.
Yeah, it was something that he knew, especially working in the industry that he's always worked in. He's always worked in and out of the strip club. So where the guys that are MMA fighters hang out? Probably
the library.
Yeah, exactly. Probably strip clubs. So I'm sure that he had a closer feel that was something that was going to take off, and he incorporated that into a gimmick that was, if you look back at it, was light years ahead of anything else. So maybe he may be clairvoyant. I think they're going to do the George C. Scott clairvoyant, and they're actually going to put Charles in the George C. Scott spot.
He could handle it.
And he won't accept the Oscar.
Talk to me about Matt and Jeff as enhancement talent at the time. Did you take notice of them, or?
Jeff was. I don't even know if Jeff was of legal age the first time I met him, and it was like in White Plains or something like that. And at the time, he had a haircut like Vanilla Ice, and we used to call him Vanilla Ice.
Uh-huh.
And but Scott would always handpick him to work his matches with, because he was good, and Scott would always give him stuff, and it would drive Vince crazy. Because it was just chopped meat. You never gave the enhancement guy anything.
Right.
Scott would always give him something. Scott would, we'd take a drop kick, and Scott would bump.
Well, that's kind of nice of Scott.
Scott knew talent. I mean, Scott, Scott would always say, "This kid's special. This kid's special. This kid's special," and he was, and is. Scott always tells the story about when he was breaking in and he worked with Zbyszko. And Scott was like the big jacked up dude, and you know, those days, a big jacked up dude came into a territory, nobody wanted to help him out because that was just, especially a big good looking guy like him, he's going to take your spot. He's going to take somebody's spot. You know, he's physically, I mean, you always see that great working punch. And people just, and he had a match with Zbyszko on TV, and Larry just kind of blew him off during the day. You know, and he's greenhorn, he's wanting to, you know, sit and talk about it. And they went out there, and Larry went through with him. Larry went 10 minutes through. And you know, it just kind of made Scott. And he was just like, why would this guy do that? But then he found out later on, Larry saw something in him. I think Larry and Scott have been friends to this day because of that.
Wow.
Like, you never forget the guy that kind of goes out of his way to do something for you. And, you know, and Larry's always been a class act. My first match of any significance in the Federation was King of the Ring when it was like the Intercontinental. It was like my first title shot, and we had the King of the Ring with Neidhart interfering. I think it was in Philadelphia. And Bret was one of those guys that always thought if he had 20 minutes, he blocked it, like, you know, 5 minutes start, 5 minutes. Like he kind of thought psychology-wise and how he set up, especially like a match of that was going to be, you know, like a pay-per-view match. Back then you only had 5. You know, so it was, you know, these are huge events. And what people don't understand too is you're going into this match and you've been on the road for 22 days. It's not like you've been at home resting, getting some sun. I mean, you know, I'll never forget, we passed Lawrence Taylor leaving the dollhouse at probably about 4 in the morning. And Taylor looked at us and he's just like, because they just did that little angle, you know, he's looking at us like, you guys got to work tomorrow. Like, you guys are as bad as we are. I'm like, yeah. You know, and that was the whole thing. Like, I don't ever remember, like, the key was, especially for our group, like, you never went into a pay-per-view without being hungover. I mean, that was like, that was a give me.
For pay-per-view?
Yeah. Because you got to feel absolutely miserable because then your focus is just like, because if you came in there and it was a great day, you wouldn't have, but it's just always that oh God, we should have got sleep. That was one of those nights, you know, and then this thing here was, you know, it was like a 40-minute match, but it was so, you know, when I looked at it, it was so much laying down time between getting them out and everything else. But my whole thing was this. They really didn't go over what the finish was going to be, and I won in Madison Square Garden, which was our backyard back then. Like, that was like, you know, that was your payday. That was kind of the basis of our company, was the Garden. So to go over it in a house show was kind of big because it just didn't happen.
Never happened.
And yeah, and it also you know, going over the Garden. So it was, you know, that alone, and it was weird because, you know, 3 years earlier I was almost out of the business, and now here I am in the Garden winning the strap in 8 seconds, and I turn around, I'm thinking, you know, they're going to put this weight of the world on me, and I'm getting ready to accept it. Then I go to the Royal Rumble, and they don't want to put those Bret Hart eggs in the Diesel basket. They don't want to hurt Bret. Maybe this isn't going to work out. So coming out of the chute, you're our champion, but your pitch counts 30. You know.
Right. You're right, though. How do they propose to you that you're not going to go over on the first pay-per-view after you win the belt?
It's just the way they are, and they don't realize that the business has changed. And when you get in the car that night, you got fucking 3 or 4 guys that are going, that was fucking bullshit. That's fucking, fuck them.
Right.
you know, and they would just wind you up to the point, because that's what they do.
But did they say, at least to you, did they try and babyface it? Like, listen, I know it looks weird that we're going to do a Raw, but we're going to have such a house for SummerSlam when you work with Bret, or whatever. What the next one would have been, King of the Ring.
Yeah, I don't think we touched until he beat me. So like a year later was, I think, the next time.
but the office or the agent, whoever brings you
they
the finish,
they always try. Yeah, I'll never forget the day that when they gave me the strap, Ben said, you know, it's going to take time. You know, you're a new entity. You know, we're looking at keeping this belt on you like 3 years. You know, I didn't say that. He said it. So now it's, you know, Shawn's really lobbied for that spot. Vince is starting to get it that he doesn't need he can't have a guy with 24-inch arms. The feds are on him. We're drug tested, and it's a shoot. Everybody's nose will be smaller, except I wasn't, because I was clean when I got there. So I was, you know, they looked around after about 6 months and went, that guy's still 320.
Might be one of the reasons you got it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's the only reason I got it. We had a garden show, and Luger was standing between Vince and Shane, and they were watching it, and they both kept saying, Jesus, look how big he is, look how big he is, look how big he is. And I walked back that night in the garden, and there was a 6-man elimination tag, which I went over in. And Lex said, you're going to get the strap. They just came all over themselves tonight. Like, they're going to go with you. You're the biggest guy now. They're going to go with you. And I said, really? And he said, they're going to go with you. And shortly after that, I got the IC, and then it went from there.
When do you guys find out about this stuff that someone's coming from the outside and going to be working up to a WrestleMania?
We knew that there were negotiations with them, and the company was so much smaller, you know, than it. Like now, I went back in this last run, it's like you have the feeling when you get to the building that like the Eagles are there. Like there's 95 buses. It's such a giant operation as opposed to, you know, a bunch of guys driving up in Luminas, you know, and then 2 TV trucks.
Right.
You know, we didn't have trainers, we didn't have doctors, we didn't have, it was bare bone pro wrestling.
So no secrets.
When everything's, there's, you know, and when you're together at that period of time, day in, day out, even though there's factions and cliques, groups, whatever you want to call them, everybody's in it together because your payday is dependent on whether you like the guy or not across, and you're making this work because you got to draw a house, because if you don't draw a house, you don't do buy rates, you don't sell merch, we're not getting paid. There is no downside, my first contract I was looking at the other day, just was nostalgically kind of going through paperwork and seeing what we can toss and what we couldn't toss. And the only one I kept was my first Titan booking agreement.
Which said?
That I was guaranteed 10 shots at $150 a shot.
Wow.
Per year. $1,500 guarantee.
You did considerably better than that.
Yeah, double that.
Back to LT. So, if you see this as a way for you guys to make a little money, put some more ass in the seat, there's no resentment.
No, because at that point, like this is when the LT's changed the way the NFL's played. Like there'll never be another LT. He's actually changed, the position of everything. I mean, all of a sudden, defensive ends are basically outside line. Like he's switching the game of pro football, but he's also got enough of that pro wrestler mentality where he's in enough shit on a day-to-day basis where he kind of fits into the pirate ship.
That's interesting, yeah.
He's not that. I don't think Tim Tebow would have worked quite as well as Lawrence. Put it that way.
Running with you guys,
right?
Yeah.
I made my first road trip with Dutch in the business. It was me at the wheel, Sid next to me, Dutch Mantel behind Sid, and the one and only. You want to talk about your first road trip? Behind me, oh, Bubba, the Sheik.
The Sheik.
Sid, who's the fucking giant jabroni driving us with the mohawk? Not a jabroni, Sheik. Oh, of course you're not, Bubba. I'm just like, what the fuck?
Take me into that car for a little bit here. How long did you have to ride with them? Was it one trip or you stayed on the road?
It was, people would rotate in and out, you know, but it was always, like Dutch and I traveled a lot together. Sid loved to go to the gym, so that was a no-brainer. And then, you know, Sheik was a floater. He'd sometimes join us, sometimes be with somebody else.
Was Sid a medicine man?
No.
No.
No, Sid, I don't even think Sid drank.
Right, and I know you didn't do anything. It's an odd car for cars to end up in, really.
Especially when, like, 20 seconds into the ride, I can smell somebody smoking weed behind me.
Right.
And we stopped, we're going to Reynoldsburg, Ohio. We stopped at the World Gym. On the way to the gym, Sheik, oh, the big man, stop, get the Heineken. He has like 4 Heinekens, joins us in the gym a little bit later, does like 135, like 135, just dropping it off his chest, like, he's got the clubs going, he's got the fucking stocking hat on. I mean, it's just like, and you're looking at I'm looking at Sid over there, and he's, you know, he's big old jacked up fucker, and he's sitting over there, and you got crazy ass Dutch reading the USA Today in the front, the pro shop, he ain't even working out.
Right, he's not even,
He's not,
have to.
and you're just looking at it going, and you look at it and you say to yourself, these are pro wrestlers.
The circus is in town.
These aren't sports entertainment guys.
Yeah.
This is a fucking, these are characters that you couldn't fucking create if you were doing a skit. And I mean, I looked at that as, and I remember like when I broke into the business, like the best time was always, because you're green, you know that when you go to the building, it's just a matter of time where you're on the card before you get exposed. So that's a horrible feeling. Mm. It's like that dream you have when you're naked and you got a 1-inch dick, and you're like at the mall during Christmas. You know, that whole feeling of, oh God. You know, you'd have a great workout, great day, couple of good meals, tan, you laugh with your buddies, get to the building, and all of a sudden your stomach goes, oh, I'm gonna have to put in 8 minutes of just, and I'm gonna hear boring and all this shit, because I'm gonna grab a bear hug somewhere and I'm gonna blow up, and it's, oh God. And that was the whole thing, you know, it was just like, but at night, when you stopped and got your beer, it was like, all right, here we go. Then the stories would start, and you would always, and all you ever want when you, I don't care, I mean, it might change now, but all you wanted to do was at some point, because they'd always say, you know, some guy's name would come up, you know. Yeah, you ever work with Wayne Emery? He's a little bit of a dirtbag, but you know what, he can fucking go. He'll give you a good little match. You always say to yourself, I just hope someday when my name comes up that I'm considered a good hand.
Right.
Like somebody that was fun to work with, somebody, not like, God damn, it's like pulling a fucking anchor, you know.
Who might you hear that about at this time? Who's pulling the, who's the
I think Kazmaier was was one of those guys. Oh, the Pillman stories on Kazmaier were classic. That whole Hart, anybody that you know that was in that Hart territory, I mean, you know, it was just those stories are just, you know, I look at that and I said, if I had to break in like that, I'd be like, no.
Right.
I would have went home.
Do you remember, did Michael screw up the ending when his one foot hit the floor? And you remember any of that happening?
Yeah. Didn't they play it back a couple of times? Like they found like an angle where it was questionable.
Because it was 1 instead of 2. That's how they said it. And they said, well, no, it's 2 feet have to hit. Yeah.
Yeah. I do remember there being controversy, but it was one of those things like, you know, sorry, it's already booked.
Right. Talk about Pamela being at the event.
She was sweet. I mean, you know, we went out and did a photo shoot with her in Malibu and got to spend a little bit of time with her. And then You know, her dad was a fan. So actually, she was at the Rumble that Lawrence Taylor was at with her dad. Her dad, you know, came and she was like a guest, and she was still with Tommy then. And Tommy, you know, Tommy was there too. But
Oh, really?
yeah, Tommy came to the building, and God, what was that, like in Tampa at the Sundome or wherever that run?
What do I have here? It's at the
I know it was in Tampa.
Sundome, Tampa. There you go.
Yeah, it's a good memory. Not bad for an old timer.
Tommy probably would have fit right in with your running mates and yourself pretty well, no?
Oh yeah.
He would have been a good fit.
Good one, yeah.
Quote, yeah, I used steroids. It was in 1986 for the first time. I don't think there was a person, you know, in that musclehead realm of thinking that wasn't curious. It became almost chic to take the juice. One thing really made me want to come to the WWF was the even playing field. They had a drug program that was, as they say in the business, a shoot. It was for real. But when I was with Turner, everyone's on it. You got to be on it or you're not going to get promoted. With the WWF, it's the opposite. Did you feel that way at the time?
Yes. Plus, I was also in that early position of being completely brainwashed. You know, because you're the spokesperson for the company.
Well, was it true?
Yeah, we weren't. I mean, it was so bad. It was killing us financially. You would see it in your paycheck, but you would piss at the Spectrum on like a Saturday or Sunday. Do a double shot in Hershey, and those fucking white coats would be in Hershey, and they would piss you again.
Do you pay for each test?
No.
You don't have to.
But the company is.
Right.
And I mean, you know, they're not throwing samples out. Federal government, I mean, that's all they need is if there was any kind of tampering, we're going to go to a court case. I mean, it was a situation where, fuck, I mean, it was like you couldn't do anything. You couldn't smoke. You couldn't, you know. I don't think they were. You know, the thing was, it was just like, well, it was a situation where, you know, there's no alcohol clause in anybody's contract, and, you know, gimmicks are gimmicks. He was one of the first guys that I had actually talked to. Like, it wasn't. We were in no way friends, but. You know, I actually, you know, I knew him. You know, sat in the locker room, talked to him, and been around him a little bit. And, but I mean, you know, everybody's demons are like before you ever meet that person. Like, there's those, you know, oh God, you know, that guy's a maniac. This guy's a maniac, and he was one of those guys where they said, you know, he's completely, you know, he's. So when guys like that were going down. You know, it's completely different when you look back now. Like I was talking to somebody. I have pictures of 11, like me and 9 other guys, or me and 11 guys, and I have pictures that I'm the only guy that's alive. And you know, like one had a softball game. It was like, and the last 2 guys that were alive in it were me and Mach, and then Mach just passed, and now that made me the only guy. And you start to look at that and go. I ran pretty hard, like when, you know. Well,
you stopped.
Yeah, but I mean, it's still just like, you know, how much, you know, I go to a cardiologist every 3 months, but it's still, my whole thing is, I'm so worried because of the lifestyle I used to live, that someday I'm going to croak at, say, 60, and it's going to be, you know, I'm going to get this whole, yeah, he was one of the guys, and he's on that list, and it's just like, no. Number one, my dad died at 36. He wasn't one of the boys. You know, I got bad genetics. And on top of that, when you go to the dog park, ask the fucker with the Great Dane how old it is. I guarantee you he doesn't say 16. You know, it's just like,
Yeah,
so, and that's the whole thing. You know, it's like, I don't expect to fucking see 70.
But now, Eddie, at this time in 1995, it's not epidemic yet. It's happening a little bit. So is there widespread cause for concern in the locker room, or are you guys refraining from doing stuff just because you're getting tested?
Well, yeah. I mean, nobody's smoking any. I mean, it's not even a consideration to get high. So, but when you're on the road that much, especially, you know, you're leaving, you're doing like 8 shots in the Northeast, and then the next night you're in Anaheim. So you're like in Boston on a 6:45, you go into Anaheim, you know that even though that's, I think, one of the longest flights, I think it's like 4:53 or whatever, I think it is the longest flight in the continental U.S. I think that's the longest, and you know these things because you better have your gimmicks and everything in you, because you got to be down when landing gear goes up, because that's your 5 hours of sleep. You don't get that 5 hours of sleep, you're not going to make it to the gym, you're not going to, it just, you know, and you get in and it's 9-something o'clock and you can't check in.
Right.
You know, you can't check in till 3. So it's like you got to still drive to Anaheim from LAX. It's, you know, you're going to run the Forum the next night, and it's just like, you know, it's one of those things where it's the culture. Yeah, is it fun to get a buzz? Yeah, everybody likes to get a buzz, but also it starts off as almost a necessity, and we you know, we'd all deemed it the Elvis lifestyle. You know, you got to drop the landing gear, but guess what? Bing bing, bell time. You got to go this way. And good luck getting a fucking cup of coffee in half these arenas. If you couldn't get a cup of coffee in Madison Square Garden if you had a winning lottery ticket.
They didn't do any kind of catering
Nothing.
for you at the time?
Not a fucking thing.
For TVs even? Because you're there a long time.
Fuck, we were cutting back so much. We're going to catering, you have ham sandwiches.
Wow.
You go to catering now, it's just like, geez, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
We had to lobby to get him in.
Why?
He had he'd had the problem with Arn.
Oh, the stabbing, yeah.
Yeah, that whole incident had came out. He had that loose cannon, like he wasn't all there. And I remember sitting, the first meeting that Vince had with Sid was in the Titan Tower in the weight room, in the locker room with me and Shawn and Sid. And we basically sold Sid to Vince. And we went forward from there. But like I, you know, we were, you know, I always got along with Sid. I've always, you know, thought he was money.
What,
And,
why didn't you think there would be problems with Sid? He's always kind of had a rep. Why did you think it would be?
well, I mean, when somebody sits there and looks at you and says, we're going to give you Hulk's boots, and you're going to take it forward. Yeah, Vince, but I kind of want to be a big, vicious heel. No, we're going to give you the key to the fucking
Kingdom, yeah.
Nah, I understand that, but I really think my money is as a big, vicious heel. It's kind of hard to get a guy back in after that situation. You know, it's just like Vince is like, fuck, and it was almost one of the things like, you fuckers deal with him.
Right.
Right? You want him part of this deal, you deal with him. It's you work it out. You know? And it was like, cool. So Sid came in. But it was kind of cool because they had like a post thing out at a place called Rawhide, which I later, it was in Phoenix. I lived there at the time, and which made it, you know, perfect. It wasn't like they had to fly me anywhere.
Oh.
But the kicker was that they waited so long, and the limos were all gone. So
Waited so long for what?
they waited so long to book a limo. It's like, you know, who's ever in charge, and I know it was this fucking Lisa Wolf bitch. If you're out there, fuck you.
Why the heat?
I hated her. She came in from the NFL. They brought her in. It's another one of these people that come from an outside entity. And the first time I ever had a conversation with her, she looks at me, she goes, it's just like the NFL. You're the quarterback. Your wife is the quarterback's wife. She's in charge. I said, do you understand, bitch, that we don't all fucking play for the same team in the same fucking city? I'm the only motherfucker in Phoenix. My wife isn't gonna fucking be flying around me. No, it doesn't work that way. This is work. And she's in charge. And she's like third and like she's got power.
Wow.
And it's like now it's almost like a witch hunt for us. We're just trying to drive a stake in her heart as quick as we can to get her out of there.
How did she go finally? How long did she last?
We fucked her at that NFL 50th anniversary thing. She got us. She told us we were gonna, you know. Vince wanted. I think Taker was in gear. This is how, you know. This is still at that point. I'd gotten heat for showing up on Kathy Lee in a blue suit in Regis. I got fucking. I mean, I got serious heat. And as soon as I got off that fucking show, man, it was just like, you need to call Vince.
Wow.
Because I wasn't in my fucking gear with a belt.
Right.
You know?
So Taker shows up in
gear. And the rest of us, they get us off the rack fucking tuxes. And I mean, you could have put 3 of me in mine. And I just was waiting. It was something that she did. And I just said, you know what? I said, it's time. And I said, I ain't fucking going down there. Luger's over there in a fucking custom-made Calvin Klein, you know, tux, and I look like, you know, I've got Abby's coat on.
And it was her job to arrange for all this.
All this. And I said, I'm our world champion. I'm going to go down there in the fucking NFL's 50th on television with Diana Ross singing, and I'm going to fucking have this fucking thing on. I said, I'm not doing it. Just not doing it. So they had like Chinese tailors come to our room and like work just in a frenzy to try to get this thing together in the hour and 45 minutes before we go on air. And it was just one of those deals where it was just like, that was like, wow. She was on the stake and we finally just went.
And she was gone.
She was gone shortly after that. Fuck you and good riddance.
By the way, the bill for those Chinese tailors was $11.67 for the entire time they were there.
16 hours. The Lex Express went up. That was a pretty, when you're going to a town to do TV and you get there, and like I've said before, you know, this was prior to cell phones. I mean, you pull up to fucking someplace and there happens to be the Smith family reunion, and there's no hotel rooms anywhere, and you're fucking sleeping in cars, and all of a sudden, right before TV comes, this fucking bus. This air-conditioned bus with this guy in it that's not getting over, you know. And I mean, I love Lex. I think he's and there was, the thing is, it wasn't like anybody didn't like Lex the guy. It's just like here's a typical one. We're in Halifax and we're getting ready to do TV. It's taped. And they've got I don't know what it's called, but you know, the steel poles with the curtains to kind of coordinate or
cordon off areas.
Yeah, and this is like the backstage, so where you go, and Lex gets tangled up in it, and like takes down like fucking about 40 feet of this shit, and fucking Scott just jumps up and goes, "Motherfucker, come! Is anybody watching this besides me?" Because this is when Scott's on TV with the American flag when they're doing the thing, and he's behind just as sarcastic as he can. Scott's got 2 of them, and he's walking up and down the aisleways with Lex going. Mm-hmm. Like Scott's.
This
going,
is during his push. This is during Lex's push.
And Scott's going like, you know, fuck that. Yeah. You know, how about me? I know I'm not the squeaky wheel. I know I've had the IC belt 15 fucking times because I'm not afraid to do a job for anybody because I'm bulletproof. But come on, really?
Did he ever try any Lex rather? Did he ever try and pull anything with you guys from a power standpoint, as it was shifting away from him? And
no, because he knew he needed us. Right. When you can't fucking work, last thing you want to do is fuck with a guy like Shawn Michaels, who will not be afraid on a pay-per-view or TV to make you or fucking look at you and go, "Get off the ground, you fat piece of shit."
Vader. Leon.
I mean, you know, Sean's a different cat now, but boy, I miss that old one.
Would he be reprimanded for what he said about Lex in an interview? Because right or wrong, you don't.
Not Sean.
No.
Sean was the only one that could kick the door and tell Vince to fuck you.
Right. Did he?
Yes.
Because he was money.
Always, but it was, on top of that, it was just like, nobody had more passion than Shawn.
Was he agenting?
Yeah, he was one of my. He was one of the first guys that really. He while I was bodyguarding, we went over to Europe, and Chief was the road agent, and I was opening match with Virgil, and we actually put together like a decent match. And Chief would just kind of construct little pieces every night, and it was like his baby. Like I was kind of his, his project. Some nights you'd come home and come through the curtain and you said, "Chief, how was it?" And Chief would sit there and go, "I never understood what it meant, but I knew it wasn't good." He said, "You could have had that fucking match in an iron lung." I don't know what it means, but it just doesn't sound like it's like an accolade of any kind.
No, it's not positive.
Yeah, but no, Chief was, and Chief came back, and me and Virgil ended up having that match on Raw. Now,
So Chief was good
Yeah.
at his job. I only hear jabs at him and what he did.
Well, it's one of those things where when you watch a tape back at Chief Jay Strongbow's work, it wasn't like, but you know what? I've never seen a fucking tape when he fucking drops those fucking hands back and starts doing his shit. I don't see people sitting on their
They pop.
asses.
No, they pop.
So to me, it's just like, that was still the era of, he's getting away, he's over and he's not doing shit. So obviously he knows.
Right.
He's getting a response and he ain't doing shit. For us to, he knows. So fucking pony up to him, because it's still, people don't give you everything. A guy like Lawler, I remember the first time I worked with Jerry, I said, "Fuck, I can't wait to work with you tonight, man. If I can get some of your knowledge." I said, "Fuck you, man. I've been working 25 years to learn this shit. Learn on your own." I was like, "Okay. Sorry for the potato. My bad ahead of time."
What did you say to a young guy who would come up to you? Were you more of a Lawler or more of a Chief Jay?
I would be more than happy to tell somebody that they had a match that could happen in iron and lung. No, I've never considered myself. I've been more of a Chief Jay Strongbow in my career than I have a Bret Hart. Like to come and tell you something like, when you're doing that fucking Chinese fucking whatever you guys do, where you roll around and do that shit, I don't think you're doing it right. I wouldn't fucking know. But when it got to the era of the, I grab you, you flip me, and it just looks like two guys from Circus Soleil doing a tumbling routine, and you can obviously see that they're helping each other through the movements. It's just like, at what point you go, all right, I can't chain wrestle, but that fucking blows.
Right.
I mean, just from a standpoint of, I was a mark at one time and I actually watched this, and I would not fucking watch that.
Yeah, as a fan, you're not buying
Yeah,
it.
I'm uncle. Uncle on that.
Doing these kind of things, is the press, the legitimate press that's there, are they taking it seriously, or are they always snarky and like suppressing a
Always.
smile? Always, yeah.
Always. Always, always, always. Always that,
Right.
we're here, They do draw a crowd, but, but God forbid, let's cover that sweet ass fucking Masters for 6 hours. Fucking brought to you by Ambien.
Is the thing with LT kissing Bam Bam, was that planned, or is that an LT thing that was spontaneous?
I don't know. I mean, I'm sure that, it wasn't like Lawrence wasn't, and that was the key, we did it in New York, we had Lawrence, so we knew we were going to get press.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons, you grab a guy like that. But, in the long term, it was like that match got more hype than me and Shawn did. So once again, yeah, I'm going to my first Mania on top, but I'm not on top.
We'll get to that. With the press we're talking about and the testing and stuff, The office is probably pretty irate at this news.
Yeah, the only thing that kind of I think that you know, Brian wasn't really, you know, he was kind of in the middle of the card.
Right.
You know, so that was kind of the only kind of saving grace if there was anything.
But in the press, there's those letters,
Oh, yeah.
WWF and steroids and guns and.
I'm thinking, I remember when that went down, I'm thinking, Kona? Like, really?
Hawaii?
Yeah, like, really? Like, you know, this is before Dog. I mean, like, what the, how do you get busted in Kona with like, anything?
Did you know he lived there?
Yeah. You know, I said, you know what, the fucking blonde mullet on the island didn't work.
Did you have fond memories of him? He has since
Great
passed,
guy.
of course. But
Great guy. Funny as fuck.
Really?
And yeah, really dry Bob Newhart sense of humor.
Really?
Yeah. Traveled a lot with him. I mean, like, just him and I in a car. He was another guy that, you know, I love a guy that no matter what you do the night before, how bad you get, the phone ring, if you look at each other in a complete stupor, say, we're getting up at 11 and going to the gym. And at 11:02, that phone rings. He's like, downstairs, are we going to the gym? Like, I'm coming. I got my coffee. It's like, because you need that. That was my philosophy in this business. If I made $1 every day that I went to the gym, and I went out and spent 98 cents, I still had 2 cents left. If I went to the gym the next day, and that was kind of if you kind of had all the bullshit addictions that you had that were unpositive, this was the one positive addiction that made a difference. It did get the toxins out of you. You felt better. You went to the building with that pump. You were warm. You know, you kept yourself strong. You did your cardio. You did. I think that was a difference. You know, people look at me and they go, "You really, like when I dyed my hair black, like, you really haven't aged since like 95." I'm like, well, yeah, I take care of myself. I always ate good. I never ate shit. I always went to the gym. I was smart. I knew that once my body I came into this business fucked. I was crippled. I was done. I blew my knee out so bad in Europe that I was never going to have an athletic anything. And then when I went and watched Hulk, Joe Louis, and I watched him work, and I watched what he did, and I said, I'm a better athlete than he is, even on one leg. Not to be a dick, you know. It's just.
But that's literally what convinced you that you could do it when you watched him.
Yeah, because I watched him because he was all about charisma, being bigger. I thought when they said he was 6'9" on TV, I thought he was 6'9". Right. He walked down the aisleway, and I was like 3 rows back, and I'm looking on top of his fucking head. I'm like, he's 6'4". I'm thinking to myself, like, fuck, man, like, this is, I get it. This is such a fucking work.
See how many careers Hulk has inspired? When you think
I was
about
a mark for him. I thought, I mean, he's the reason I got in the business.
Are you, Razor, and Shawn all tight at this point? I mean, has a clique formed yet?
From the day I walked into the Albany locker room, the first day that Shawn Michaels turned around to me and went, "Hi, I'm Shawn Michaels." I went, "That voice comes out of that motherfucker?" And I mean, I've done nothing in my career. It's my first show. I've went to Steinbrenner's house and met the fucking owner of the Yankees. Vince.
Circumstance.
I've met Vince. I mean, in our business, he's like Steinbrenner.
Right,
so I've been to Steinbrenner's house. You know, he comes to the door with an Ico Pro. "Hey, how you doing? Oh, bigger than I thought you were. Come out to the pool."
An Ico Pro T-shirt? Do you mean?
The fucking cut off belly, fucking loose neck. Oh, fucking classic. You know.
Was he jacked?
He always has been in good shape. You know, he's fucking Vince. You know. But the good hard handshake. He's a guy. Vince is a guy. You know. He's a guy. You just know that the minute you meet him, you know. He just, fucking Vince.
Saying that stuff on TV was probably a no-no. Not even not
Yeah.
done. It was probably
Yeah.
not.
And we're starting to push that envelope too. We're starting to realize that, you know, this is the kind of the, there was that era where every guy that they brought in was just like, you weren't a wrestler, you were an occupation. You were a plumber, you were a trashman, you were a pig farmer, you were a blue blood, you were, everybody had to be, and then all of a sudden it was starting to get to the point where, no, the way this is going to work is guys fighting against guys. It's worked in fucking pro boxing forever. Still, I mean, when there's really a fucking a top prize fight, you know, Mayweather or somebody, if Mayweather fights Pacquiao, I don't give a fuck what anybody says. You could have the return of every UFC guy on the planet run a show that night, and ain't one motherfucker gonna watch that. Because still fucking, when you have a shoot boxing fucking gimmick, and it's especially with that HBO 24/7, the way they package it
Build
out.
up, yeah.
Yeah, it's just like, fuck, those things get me. Neither guy even speaks English. I'm fucking reading subtitles going, fuck, I'm buying this thing. I want to see what the guy that fucking had the cast on earlier wins or not. But, you know, that was the whole thing, was we started to realize, it was like the angle we did when Owen fucking kicked Shawn, and we put that together in the car, the whole fucking thing. And I remember looking at Shawn, I said, and everybody's got to come out of the locker room very kayfabe. Like, heel's got to be out there. And I said, and this is right after Ripken had went over the streak, and he went around the stadium, and Boomer didn't say a fucking word for like 2 minutes. It was like the first time I've ever seen a sporting event where they just let it become organic and let the moment tell the story without somebody going, oh my God! And I said, the thing is, to make it real, is the commentators got to shut the fuck up, stand up, take off their headphones, and people are going to buy the fact that Shawn's fucked. And then they bought it. People bought it. People were calling around trying to figure out what hospital he was in. It was starting. We got to the point of the realer we can make this, in this, the way our society's changing, needs to be real. You know,
and that played a part in those dropping those words, like I'm going to go over
right
here and there. Okay.
And it was just like, you know, because we knew that there was, the one basis you can always count on is the smarts. You know, the smarts are always, you know, I love when a smart says, you know what, that was the worst fucking pay-per-view I've ever seen in my life, and I will not fucking buy another one until next month. Because I mean, whether you hate them or love them or don't, you know, and I'm such a darling of them. You know, I'm probably one of the top 5 guys of all time.
They love your matches. They love your title reign.
Yeah, me and Shigeru Onaki that worked in the Corkian Hall last night for Match of the Year that 4 people saw. Fuck. All I know is it's the first time my wife has been to an event in 5 years. Like, my wife is actually going to go to WrestleMania.
Why just WrestleMania? Because they'll fly her in?
Because they have fucking basically pigeonholed her to the point where Linda is actually, please come. You know, so I know my wife's going to be there, which is the added stress of, you know, even though it's just across the fucking road, I don't want her on the pirate ship at all.
Right. Yeah.
You know, so now I've got Shawn, who I know is going to try to fucking blow me up. I know for a fact he's going to try to blow me up. He's going to try to outperform me because he wants my fucking spot. We're best friends, but I know what his fucking motivations are.
But you could lean on him a little.
Oh, I did.
Blow him up, yeah. Okay.
As soon as I fucking saw him suck that hair down his throat, I fucking hooked him. Boom. How we doing now?
Exactly.
You know, but you know, if you ever watched that fucking opening 3 minutes, I mean, fucking Bolt cutting around that fucking those spots any faster than he was running.
Yeah.
You know, and then we got out and got tied up in all those fucking press and had to fight through them to get to the spot. In fact, we went back in, I was just like, oh man, we got like 24 left and I'm gone.
Does he? What do you talk about before the match? Your friends, and you know you really have to have a spotlight match on this card, even though you're not in the main event. We'll get to that. What do you talk about before the match?
The beauty of working every fucking night of your life is you've had, and people have to realize that we only had an hour of television back then on Raw.
Right.
You know, so, and for there to be a match of any significance on Raw was very rare. So I'm working, let's say, Bret on the house shows. And then but I just got done working, say, Lex for 3 months. Now this is the first time you're gonna see me and Lex on TV. We've touched 90 times. Right. There's none of this fumble fucking around. It's, you know, everybody's got a feel for what everybody does, and that's why the matches are pretty damn tight. You know, and you're only going 8 to 12 if it's a match of any significance. So by this time, Shawn and I have been in some form or fashion involved with each other for almost 3 years. So I know even just sitting on the apron for the 6 or 8 months that I was his bodyguard, I knew everything he did. You know, I knew what he called everything. I knew the sequences. I knew how he would rotate out of things. So it was like I knew, you know, like in the movie Patton, Rommel, I've read your fucking book. Like I knew Shawn Michaels, and I knew what he was going to do.
But he doesn't even walk by and go, "Gonna go real fast for the first few minutes. Get ready."
No, he's not. If he needs to tell me that, I shouldn't be where I'm at. Right. You know?
But maybe to shake you up a little bit.
I wouldn't have done that because I said, fuck it, I'll knock you out. Can't do much when I can hit you in the temple. No, but that was, Shawn won that spot. Everybody knew that fucking Shawn was lobbying for that spot. And it was just like, that's great, but guess what? When you go through the fucking airport, I'm still the biggest guy. Vince don't care. He still thinks it's a big man sport. You gotta convince him. Oh, I know how you can do it. Take the worst power bomb in the history of fucking pro wrestling for the finish. How's that possible? Shawn could fucking stand and take a power bomb without anybody giving it to him better than he took the one in that match.
Why?
Why not?
Talk to me about
who went down the fucking zip line at the next WrestleMania? Was it Diesel?
No.
I rest my case. No animosity though. I mean, that's just, hey, that's the shark environment. If you couldn't fucking, if you could go fuck with somebody else and you can't fuck with the guys in your car.
Right.
I mean, that was the way it was. We were all, hey, we're 1099s. He's Hickenbottom Enterprises. I'm Spartacus Entertainment. We're LLCs. We're doing our things, and you know.
Right. Friends or not, it's still
business.
Right. Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, two of the names you hear very often as being guys that you want to work with in the ring. Compare them for me.
God, I mean, you know, so many. That's the problem. They did this is they're so, even though they're chocolate and vanilla as far. I mean, you know, they're competitive. They're, you know. Bret would always look at you and say, "It's real. It's all real." And if he put you in that sharpshooter, fuck, you thought you were like, "Jesus, easy, dude." And it was the same way. I think that, you know, Bret being born into that, basically just genetically engineered to be, you know, a pro wrestler. And when you know, even when you watch a guy like Cena, you watch a tape of a guy like Cena, here's a guy that's got at 8 years old, has got a world belt made and put around him, and Shawn's, you know, got, you know, doing suplexes with his buddies into the pool. I was playing hoops. Mm-hmm. You know, so I mean, my mindset's completely different. I blew my knee out of what my dream was, and I looked and saw something that still let me be an athlete that I could pull off with fucking 1.5 legs, and I said, and I can make cash, like,
right.
And I learned as I got into it. I mean, you know, you either do this and fall in love with it, or you don't make it. Like if it's just, I guarantee you, you go to fucking White Plains and your payday's $300 fucking bucks on top, you're really not fucking doing it for the money.
Mm-hmm.
That's when me and Scott left. I said, I don't know about you, but I'm tired of doing the fucking starving artist. I'm ready to do the fucking signed lithograms.
When you went to WCW,
Yeah,
I mean,
just like I'm tired of it. I can't, you know, I love the business, but fucking I actually love money more.
It's reported in the at the time in the tabloids that Shawn got into an altercation with Pamela Anderson's husband backstage because Michaels had a fling with Anderson before she was married. Any truth to this?
No.
Okay. Okay, let's get to it. You're in the main event, but maybe not. Kind of like that. You're our guy. We're going with you, but maybe not.
Yes, we're going to give you 60 pitches this outing.
You don't close the show.
No.
Should you have closed the show with Lawrence Taylor on the card?
Yeah, because we're the championship, we're the title match, and it's not like The Rock coming back. It's not like one of the boys is coming back. You don't know what kind of match they're going to have. Thank God Bam Bam was so talented. He was, and Taylor was an amazing athlete, and they pulled it off. But that was Bam Bam. I mean, you know, people have no idea what a great worker he was. Just Scott never gets enough credit for that. And he was very anti-clique. You know, we weren't like buddies or anything, but I mean, I remember we had a meeting one time and we were going over different guys, and the clique was having a meeting. The clique we were going on strike.
I remember this. What was it over?
One of the things was.
You called Vince, didn't you?
Yeah. We called them from I think we're in Indianapolis. Yeah, we're in Indianapolis. We're at like a Spring Hill Suites, and we went across the street to a Coco's that was hooked to a La Quinta's, and there was 2 payphones up front, and we'd already been grumbling. You know, shit just wasn't going the way the clique thought, you know.
So you're running the
world according to the clique just wasn't working.
It wasn't working.
And
are you trying to run the company?
No, because we're not trying to run the company. We're trying to make the company as successful as possible because we're all in a position to reap the benefits.
Okay.
It's like, and I think this is the first time in the history of the business that guys are going, what'd you get for Survivor Series? I got 60 grand. Tell me your fucking line, Shawn. I got 60 grand. I got fucking 45. Scott and I worked the whole fucking match. You came in and super kicked and you got more. Fuck this. Boom. Bam. JJ, what the fuck's with Shawn's payoff? Hold on one second, Big guy. Vince, they're fucking talking. Big D! I look into that and get back with you. Oh, yeah, accounting error. I called my wife. I said, there'll be a FedEx on the fucking on the doorstep tomorrow, 15 grand. Just make you grab it, put it in the bank.
Is that a shoot?
Absolutely.
Wow. So there you are on the payphone at the La Quinta, and you say what to the boss?
I said, this fucking, and the first thing that started this whole thing was that Montreal incident with Pierre, with him, or with whatever the fuck, the pirate, Carl.
Carl Lule.
Them not backing, again, you know, the same thing. You know, it comes from work with Bret and have the fucking 40-minute through. Second tier.
WrestleMania.
Go to sold out Montreal. I listened to the crowd. It seemed like maybe 70-30 me.
Oh, is that a quote?
Yeah. Before they say my name, they say your name. You know, it's my hometown. Maybe we do a count out. So you fucking kidding me? If I can take my finish.
But did he maybe just want to come back one more month and then take your finish? Keep the houses up one more month?
I don't give a fuck what he wanted to do. I wasn't the one giving the finishes. I was handed the finish. I didn't know up until this point it was for debate.
Right.
That wasn't the way this company ever ran. you didn't fucking sit down in committee and determine, yeah, but what if it was, and people got beat with fucking people's finishes.
So
That's
you get
what
on the phone
did.
with Vince.
And him and Hawes and Gurria, and by the time he gets through, Gurria and Sarge, neither one will fucking make the move, and we go out there and we have, and I got him in a fucking, now I of course, the prick that I am, since you're so fucking over, I'm gonna work heel. I'm the one got him in the fucking chin locks, and I got him down and they're fucking chanting Diesel, Diesel. I said, sounds about fucking 99.1% to me right now, buddy. You want to change this? No. Not a problem. We'll have a shitty fucking deal. If you could have been in the car ride from fucking Montreal to Ottawa with the clique in a Lumina van, I can't fucking believe these motherfuckers don't have our backs. It's us against them. So now it's starting to be that. It's starting to be like, and like guys from like Taker's group, the BSKs are getting fucking BSKs fucking tattooed on them. Yeah. I mean, there's starting to be some really strong, it's like the families in New York.
What does Vince tell you when you say you guys are going to strike? You're not going on that night in Indianapolis.
I don't know. Him and Pat got on a plane. We're in Columbus in about 45 minutes.
They came to the venue.
They came to Indianapolis.
Right. Well, that's where you were working that night.
No,
I'm assuming.
we were working in Columbus.
Oh, you weren't going to leave the hotel?
No. We're not moving.
Did you want money? Did you just want assurance that it was going to go a different direction?
We wanted fucking like, what the fuck is going on here? We trying to run a wrestling company. Is our heat so much of a deterrent to everybody else that, I mean, what's going on? What's your feelings? Because we never talk to you. We only see you at TV once every 3 weeks. It's not like it is now. It's not like you have that access to Vince, and we didn't. And it was never an open door policy with Vince. Vince was busy.
What was the resolution?
Well, we sat down and immediately we told Paul, who just kind of came in, we said, you're not in this. You just stay up in your room. Because you don't, there's going to be heat. Mm. And you don't need to be collateral damage. In retrospect, we should have really galvanized him, and he probably would have been a little bit more bulletproof after we did the garden thing. But we just kind of, it wasn't like, fuck you, it was just like, this is how we feel, and then they just went through guys. I remember Bam Bam's name came up, and everybody, all the clique guys said, I don't like him, I don't like him, I don't like him, I don't like him, but he's definitely can play on our team. Mm. Like Scott Bigelow can definitely play on our fucking team. And that was, and we just kind of went through some things, and we went to Chili's, and Vince and Pat went to Chili's with us, and we fucking sat there and pounded beers. It was just one of those things like, this is what we fucking do. Do you understand that? This is what we do every fucking day of our life. This is what our day consists of. We're not at home. This is what we do, and it's like this, when all you do is eat, sleep, piss, drink, wrestling, guess what? This becomes pretty fucking important. Mm-hmm. I'm spending more time touching men, around naked men, and I mean, it's just like, it's not even a healthy environment. I've seen so many naked guys. Every night you got somebody's brute on you or something. It's just like, you're working with Scott, and he's got the brute splash on, and it's like one splash on, Tarzan's hair. If you're in there, it's like, he's got the same gear on for 11 days. He smells like kitty litter. You're going, Jesus. It's just like, fuck, really? You wonder why I'm taking a handful of fucking pills when I walk out of this building?
Did you accomplish anything? Did things change?
Yeah.
After that meeting?
I think things did, because there was several sit downs like before major pay-per-views. Now we're in your house, like we're starting to get towards that. Mm-hmm. We're starting to get like more towards, we're going to have more the more pay-per-views, And though we're talking just the 95, you know, the thing that made me leave, the one specific incident that assured me that I was not going to renew my contract was the In Your House Louisville, where I wrestled Bret and Taker came through the bottom and grabbed me and stopped me from and the key to the match was that Taker had Bret beat. I came down and flipped him off, and it cost him the match at the Rumble. I had to have Bret beat in order for it to make. We're co-headlining this 12.
Right.
And we were all in a room, and we're going over it, and Bret refuses to take my finish. Like, he won't be beat. And I'm like, dude, I'm going to get pulled in. You're just going to climb out. It's not going to hurt you. Oh, because people will have the feeling that I was beat. I'm like, he said, well, that doesn't do anything for me. And Taker, who never says anything, never raises his voice, is always that really kind of the reason, the voice of reason, fucking jolts up out of his chair. He goes, motherfucker, not everything is about you. Like, this helps make our fucking match mean more, Mania. Makes our reel before our match mean something more. And they threw it around, and we got there, and the day of, Vince made the call that, no, he's not going to take the power bomb. And that night, I walked in, because Scott was already gone. And I walked in Louisville. I walked down, and Scott was in the shower, and I walked over there, and he had some shampoo that left, and I borrowed it, and I looked at him, I was shampooing my head, and I said, tell Bischoff I'm in.
That's where you told him, right there in the shower, huh?
He fucking turned around, looked at me, and he almost wanted to hug me, like, because he wasn't going on his own. It was just like one of those.
Two guys naked in the shower. I'll catch you later. Talk about the injury and what happened. This was legit?
Fuck no.
Okay.
He lost his smile once again. Shawn worked that fucking angle. He was a teacher. Shawn was a teacher. He worked 9 months. He liked to have those summers off.
Right.
Business was down.
Was it a work to Vince?
I don't know.
Did he know? Or did they really think his back was hurt?
Who knows? He always had a wonky back anyway. Shawn always was, he always had back problems. I mean, since I knew him. But I don't think that those power bombs. I sure as hell don't remember getting in the car that night and him going, "Fuck, I'm fucked." It was one of those things like. That was like one of those territories, like growing up, that you would watch on television, especially when like that Joe Pedicino used to have that like 6-hour block that you would always watch. So that was one of those things. And of course, with Kaufman, doing his gig with Lawler down there, it was one of those things like I wanted to go down there and work just to say I worked the territory one time, and I never got to go down there, but yeah, I remember it was almost like a bone to Scott. Because Scott already went in and said, Scott wanted more money. To be gone is because he was having a lot of real strife with his wife at this point. And they had 2 young kids, and she was pissing and moaning, and it was like for what she was having to do as a mother. And it's always your wife thinks you're on the road. And it's just a fucking party 24/7. And it is. But they don't need to know that.
There's work too, though.
Yeah.
You read it for the articles.
Yeah. I only go to the strip joint because they have the world's coldest $9 beers. Right. But that was one of the things. I remember one night, Dana called my wife. She said, "You know where they're at right now? They're at a strip joint." And my wife said, "My husband worked at a strip joint, put me through college. I really don't think I can call him up and tell him that he can't be in one now." She just kind of went like, "Okay."
This brings up a good point, though. Were the wives aligned? We hear about the clique. How about the cliquettes?
Nope. No.
They know each other. They hang out.
No. We went to Scott's birthday party. Brought my son was probably 5 months old. In my arms or in my wife's arms the entire night. And later on, that's when Dana said that me and Hunter were in the bathroom all night doing coke, and I was holding my child. And she came out like a National Enquirer.
Oh, I didn't know about this. Okay.
Oh yeah, she came out. It's just like, I know that Hunter's never done an illegal drug in his life.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a cocaine guy because my dad died of a heart attack. There's one thing I won't do. Won't do any uppers. I've never been an upper guy. I'm very Allman Brothers. And it was like fuck, like, you know, at that point, you know, when things like that come out, then that's what my wife, like Rick Rude told me, was one of my early mentors, and Rude told me, dude, if you want to keep your marriage, keep your fucking wife the fuck away from this. No matter what she says, do not let her ever come around it. Don't let her talk to one of the guy's fucking wives. They're all psychos. Mm. He said, keep your fucking wife insulated as much as possible, and do not sit at your fucking house and talk business on the phone. Don't do it. Don't sit and talk business on the phone, because you're going to start laughing, and they are going to know it's a fucking 24/7.
It's fun.
Yeah, that you would do it for free. Waltman and him were kind of like they were tight, and it was one of those things. Whoever came into the territory always worked with Kid first, like that was the measuring stick. So like, you know, a guy would come in the territory, and we would just sit there at the curtain, and Kid would walk back, and Kid would just go, like,
not gonna work.
It ain't gonna work.
Okay.
But if he came back and went, I mean, that was it. That's for us, because Kid can go. I don't give a fuck what anybody says. Kid can go with anybody. I mean, he's probably one of the most underrated workers this business has ever seen. I watched him work in that Juggalo match this past year, and I mean, it was unbelievable. Like 4 o'clock in the morning, fucking mist on the. I mean, you couldn't pick a worse condition for a guy our age to just be able to just go, you know what, fuck this. Let's walk and talk. He's going 1,000,000 miles an hour out there, bouncing around, and I said, you know what? I said, I just was just like, fuck. You know, like, you should get another run. You know, I was like, fuck, that alone should give you another run.
And why the Doc Hendricks thing? Is it just Vince's thing to never acknowledge anybody who was made outside of the Fed?
I never understood that. And I still don't to this. I was amazed when I came back this time that it's like, why are you calling me Kevin Nash? I go to the Rumble, I'm Diesel. I come back, I powerbomb him, and now I'm Kevin Nash. But I'm coming out the NWO music. But I can't put Nash World Order on a T-shirt because I'm going to make too much money.
Right.
God forbid.
Yeah. What do you own? You own your name, obviously Kevin Nash, but
yeah.
NWO isn't yours.
No, it's not
Diesel
mine.
isn't
But I got, when I contractually.
Right.
I mean, I get a nice.
You have a piece of it, but you can't go outside.
No, I can't go outside. But boy, when I'm in the fucking farm.
A bunch of wrestlers on a plane. Always insanity? For an overseas flight?
It didn't even have to be overseas. If it was over 2 hours, fucking, number one, man, if you fucking fell asleep on an overseas flight, you were fucked. Minimum, you're gonna have a shaving cream turban,
Right.
missing an eyebrow,
Right.
fucking your sunglasses super glued to your face. I mean, you were gonna have a Sharpie fucking Hitler mustache if you didn't have a mustache. You were gonna get fucked with. So it was just like, I remember when Savio fucking cut Scott and Shawn's hair. Like fucking took a little piece of the mullet.
Did he ever fall asleep again after that on a flight?
No, they didn't. But fucking, I don't think Savio was.
No, did Savio ever?
No, I don't think he was around much longer after that.
Right.
I think he was pretty much adios amigos. Because fucking Scott brought him in. Scott brought him in as a buddy from Puerto Rico, and I don't give a fuck what they did to him. You don't fucking. I guess you didn't know what the food chain was.
What about the plane? First class. I mean, is Vince flying with you? No. So.
And you got to realize too now. Nobody flies first class. I'm flying to India. I got Yoko on one side of me and Taker on the other.
Yoko flew in coach?
Fuck yeah, he did.
How?
Just took 2 seats. He would never, even when he didn't like sitting in, first class was uncomfortable to him. It was amazing when Yoko would sit down because he was so, his ass was so big. Like when he and if I was driving, he was sitting next to me in a town car. He was like this much taller than me sitting. Because he,
His boost.
it was amazing. It was crazy. You would just be like talking to Yoko like this in the car, and you're like a 7-foot guy.
Wow.
But it was. And I remember like one time we went to Israel and it was the same thing. Like we flew like 20 days on the road. And we're gonna go to Israel for like 6 days. And Taker's got the broken ribs and the fucking flak jacket, and he's still doing the no sell thing where he doesn't sell anything. So when you work with him, he just blows you up because he just comes right back up, sits up, he never sells anything. Scott was the first guy in a dark match to grab a hold.
True.
Because they were switching around tapes and they fucking, I don't know if they tried to rib him or whatever, but Scott must have thrown 900 punches. And Taker would come down, come back up and do his shit, and finally Scott said, "Fuck this," and grabbed him in a fucking hold. The people came. And then all of a sudden, you can put them in a hold. But, I mean, because we were so, even though we were, you're in the locker room every night together. And, but you're so, like the clique, was in there. We did our shit. You might see each other at the gym. You might see, like, in this area, like the diner at Looker's, everybody would go through there, let alone maybe stop by and just chat with one of the gals.
Yeah.
Get one of those $9 beers. But, the only time, like when you were on, like the European trips, like you were on the bus together.
Yeah.
And that's when you would
becomes high school again. A bit,
yeah,
right?
but I mean, the thing was over there, like everybody's like, you're spending $25 a day, like just in tanning beds, just because there's nothing to do. So everybody looks like they've been to Club Med. Everybody's fucking got a million. Again, we used to call it the 550 mark tan. I mean, we're just fucking golden. But man, if you were to peel that off, you would have seen just fucking gray skeletons. I remember one time, Kid came on. We were in Hamburg, was the first night. Kid walks in the locker room, he unzips his bag. He goes, boom, and he puts this big fucking jar of pills on the table. And he goes, they're phenobarbital. I don't know what they do. So everybody's looking at the thing. We're looking at him. There's no desk reference. So we look at him.
Desk reference.
I come up with the conclusion of, well, each one of them has 325 milligrams of caffeine. So no matter what, they're probably, if you take 4 or 5, we're going to pick you up. And that was the whole thing with the boys. It wasn't like you be the guinea pig. It was just like, ooh.
What'd they do?
I don't know, he has so much other shit in you. Just rainbow stew is like, I don't know, but I mean, it was just one of those things, I remember one time kid just vanished. He'd work his match and he'd vanish. He'd get on the bus and sleep. And we're like, dude, what are you doing? And it's just like, don't smarten anybody up, but I found a doctor in London to give me some liquid codeine. I was just like, how's that? He picks up his shirt. He's got abs. He's got like a 6-pack abs. He goes, all I've been doing is drinking water. He goes to the ring that night. He's halfway down. He takes his fucking gimmicks off his fucking shoulders, rolls his fucking shirt down, and fucking goes like this. And but he turns to, because we're all at the curtain watching him, and it's just like that was the thing. Fuck 12,000 people. You're only entertaining
your friends.
Yeah, you're entertaining those 16 guys back there. But that's why we always make references on shit when we're in the NWO. 4 people got it. We didn't give a fuck. It was just those 4 people at home that went, oh, I get that. Mm-hmm. And when people say, what does that mean? Paul was a real different cat. Like he showed up with Kowalski, with Walter, like at the first set of TV. I want to think the first. Maybe the darks were Worcester, or. But the funny thing is like every Saturday afternoon when we're on the road, we would watch the WCW afternoon television wrestling show. And like our guy was terrorizing. And that was Triple H's WCW gimmick. He was terrorizing. So like when he came into TV, he's got slacks on, a fucking jacket. And this is back in fanny pack. You gotta have black jeans, fanny pack, Magnum fucking, the high-tech Magnums, the black fucking combat fatigue boots. Some kind of fucking gimmick shirt that you got from a radio station. Right. Or you can wear anybody else's gimmick t-shirt, but you can't wear your own.
Wear your own, okay.
Can't wear your own. So I can wear Taker's, Scott can wear mine. You can, when it got to the point when Scott was getting ready to leave, everybody wore Scott's t-shirt. It was yellow, and it would drive Vince crazy. You're like, you fuckers, then he had the purple one, we didn't wear that one.
That's great.
And, here's this guy, and I remember it was so funny. He walked in the building, and Scott just immediately got up out of his chair and walked behind him and just walked like step for step right behind him. Fucking Paul stopped and turned around, looked at him, and Scott went. And it was just like, he looked at us like, what the fuck? So, it's time now. It's just like, man, it's the time of the night. It's monitor time. Time to fucking rip every motherfucker that comes to the monitor. Just sit there and a guy would come, oh! So here comes Paul, he's got his match. Well, I'll sit there, and he has his match, where I'll go. So he comes out, and he's sitting there, he's taking his tape off his wrist. And we walk up to him, we go, who you driving with? He goes, I'm with Walter. I go, okay. Well, how long are you with Walter? He said, well, there's just a trip. I don't want to fucking leave him. I said, all right. And I said, you're with us.
Why? Just because he could work?
Yeah, you could just tell he was money. And so then once we got to talk to him a little bit, we realized like his passion. And he was smart too. Like he knew the business.
What got someone invited into the clique? What was the checklist, if you had to make one?
You had to love the business. It had to be like a priority. It wasn't something you did. It wasn't like cutting the lawn. I gotta cut the lawn. And you could just tell when he just, most guys really kind of, like, especially then, there were so few dark matches and so few fucking tryouts. When a guy came in, it was just like, wow. Like this guy's getting a tryout. This is, getting a tryout with the Yankees.
Right.
That's a big. That was a huge jump back in those days. To go from WCW, I remember when Shawn, when I first was asked, Shawn asked the Steiners if they knew me, and Robbie said, "Fuck," he said, "I've known Kev like before I ever got into business. We used to train at the same gym in Atlanta." And he said, do you think you'd be my bodyguard? I said, fuck, I'll call him. So they called me, and I was just like, but there was still that apprehension of, I'm not ready for fucking, I'm not ready for the big leagues.
Right.
Like that step was, and.
So the clique sees a guy who
And
looks like he's ready for the big leagues.
and he was, and it was it was such a plus to find out that he didn't drink or do anything.
Well, that's an interesting point. He doesn't party. What made you think he'd fit in with you guys? That he wouldn't be disapproving of your lifestyle?
Well, I think that at that point, if you're going to be with somebody, like you want to be with somebody that's kind of got a little bit of stroke, and you also, I mean, for him, when we found out that he didn't do those things, it was just like, for me, it was like finally, fuck, finally. And finally, I don't have to drive every fucking mile of every fucking trip.
Did you ever get slopped?
No.
Who was the slop wrangler? Who was in charge of all that shit?
Who knows? All I remember is fucking Paul having that match in your house, and he had big gashes on his back, and he's wallowing around in pig shit. And there's nobody there with even peroxide to clean it that night.
What was it?
It was like
Just dirt?
no, it was like almost like almost looked like fucking oatmeal, kind of that kind of consistency. But they had pigs that were out in that shit that night. They had pigs in the thing. They were shitting all day long. He's got his back gaffed open. He's still got those gaff marks. I mean, it's funny when every time I see him, and like when I worked at that TLC match, he's walking away from me. And as he's walking away from me selling, I'm looking at his back in my mind saying, fuck, he's still got those fucking scars from that pig match.
Yeah.
Like 20 years later, I'm looking at him going, fuck, he's still got those pig marks. I think at that point, I remember that summer, instead of running an A and a B, we ran a super show. We combined and ran like eight, instead of having 2 or 3 matches that were of significance, we ran a top to bottom card that was really solid. We had a little bit of pyro, it had a little bit more feel of what the TV show was, and it drew. It was successful. And I think what they did at that point was they thought, we won't charge them as much as the major ones because it's not going to be,
Right.
But it's still, there's at this point I think they're starting to realize that, that this kind of niche, like wrestling is kind of starting to change. It's like we're doing little small things. We did Rock and Jock. We did some stuff on Nickelodeon. So we're starting to do a little bit of crossover stuff where it was starting to get. We weren't pop culture yet, but it was starting to kind of turn that way. And I think that they were trying to, and I think Shane had a lot to do with that because, I think Shane was really, has always been underestimated that he doesn't have that great wrestling mind, but as far as like knowing what's cool, knowing what's current, as far as just from a media standpoint, like he was always ahead of the game. He had a lot of attributes that Vince didn't have. He was very current. And I don't think that he ever had that, Stanford kind of mentality to him. He had more of a, he was more of a New York guy. And, I think that he was kind of pushing us in that direction to start to get, the magazine started to change. The magazine wasn't as cartoony.
Right.
It was just the whole cartoony feel of the business was starting to be more, about guys fighting for and the belt was really, that was, that world championship was still really, it didn't jump around. We're basically almost, our styles are comparable. I think I'm a better worker than he is. I think I'm more fluid. I think, I sell better. But I just, when I see like any two big guys on a marquee, like people like, oh, I'd like to see you and Big Show at WrestleMania. Why? Do you need to take a nap? You need something to calm you down after. Why? It's like, I can't do I have 4 moves. I can't do any of them to him. I can't pick the fucker up. I can't snake eyes him. I can't do anything with this fucking guy. Like, where's the excitement?
Right.
Why would you book that?
Too similar.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. And it's just, for me and Sid, I remember I actually fucking jumped over the top rope on the Sid in the middle of because it was like a lumberjack match in Nashville, right?
It was in, I'll tell you exactly where it was. This one's in Syracuse. The first thing.
I was the first.
You've
Yeah.
worked them again.
Yeah, I think I worked at lumberjack with him in Nashville later on in your house.
Did you hurt your elbow in this match? I have in the notes that you may have injured your elbow.
This is where I heard it, but then I work with, I always call him Papa. I worked with Comet TV, the next set of TVs, and we did a double clothesline spot to go down, and my elbow was this one here. My elbow was like that, and I couldn't straighten it, and when we connected, I felt something pop. So, and I was going to do a shoot because we were close to the Basketball Hall of Fame. So we were going to go to the Basketball Hall of Fame in Mass, and Russo was going to do a piece on me for the magazine. So I got up in the middle of the night, and I rarely ever have to get up and piss. But I thought I had to pee, and I said, but I was sweating. I was like, what the fuck? So I go in the bathroom and I take a piss, and I piss, and I turn and now I'm starting to wake up, man. My elbow's killing me. And all I got is like that little light that's on in the bathroom at a hotel that has that little, like a night light type thing that they used to have at some point. Most of them don't have them anymore. And I just put my arm up like that, and when I did, I went, what the fuck is that? And I turned on the light, and I was black and blue from here to here, just like, and not black, purple. So I knew I tore something, and it was bleeding out. So I did we had like a couple of days where I was in like the New York area. Like I did that thing and I remember coming back because that night I was back in Sanford, and like all smart wrestlers would do, and you're completely, bleeding out. Let's go and do some incline presses. Let's see how fucked up it is.
Did you really?
Yeah. Started with the bar, and I went, okay. Put 45 on each side, and I went, that's not too bad, because my delts are strong. Put 2 1/4 on, push, and I went, oh, something's wrong.
Yeah.
So, typical, next stop, fucking Birmingham.
You went back on the road?
No, gotta go see Doc Andrews.
Oh, a doctor.
Go see Doc. Walked in there, and he took an MRI, and he said, yeah, you tore your tricep. So I was like, okay. He said, yeah, it's about 9 months. I went, all right. And lo and behold, 3 weeks later, I'm, I think, in a tag match with Tatanka, right? Me and Tatanka, right?
We'll come to it if this is the year.
Yeah. But I sewed that bitch up. I'd come home after the road, and my wife would squeeze it, and big fucking hunks of blood and tissue would come out of it. And I'd just butterfly it and I had 2 elbow pads on. It was just because you didn't go, you didn't get paid.
Right.
And I was on top. And I just remember Orndorff, sitting there and telling me, when he fucked his neck up and ended up losing fucking all that size in that arm, I kept saying, why didn't you get it fixed? He goes, I was on top with the man. I was printing money.
Yeah.
Like this is it. I waited a year for this angle to fucking pay off. I've got to get my money. So it's just like I'm on top. If I take 9 months off, that's it. My run's over.
Right.
So it's just like, you know. And to this day, this thing is fucked. You know, it hurts 24/7. But
Were you part of this?
yeah, and it was also, we were in like a room and it turned into a fucking, like a grievance meeting.
You were all just fielding your complaints?
Against each other.
Oh, I thought you meant against the company.
No. I remember Bam Bam standing up going, I got a problem. Last European trip. Scott Hall was working against Nash and Michaels, and he was on their bus every night. Fucking. Before he could even get it out of his mouth, fucking Shawn popped up. Hey, motherfucker! I'm on the road 350 days a fucking year. Don't you tell me who the fuck I'm gonna spend my life with. Fuck you. He goes, you dumb motherfucker. He says, yeah, because Bam Bam made a reference of, these people were following the buses, like in a caravan. He goes, yeah, you dumb motherfucker. By that time, Scott jumps up. He goes, hey, Bam Bam, think about it. They're going to fucking each town watching the exact same fucking match for 14 nights. I think they get it. We've got their money. They're not good. Like, they're following us from town to town. I don't think fucking us getting in a different bus is gonna. And it was just one of those kind of things. Oh yeah, it was tight and tight. Bullshit. It was like, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you.
Wow.
Can we get out of here and go back to the hotel now?
Unbelievable.
Thanks for the video.